Are you absolutely devastated watching your favorite team's championship window slowly crumbling, while management sits on their hands during free agency? Well, Leafs Nation, grab your tissues and buckle up, because while the NHL's biggest names have already inked their deals elsewhere, Toronto might just have found their diamond in the rough through a trade that nobody saw coming. The brutal reality of a barren free agent market lets face the harsh truth that every Maple Leafs fan is desperately trying to avoid. You blinked, and an entire NHL free agent market evaporated before your eyes. The big names? Gone. The obvious targets? Signed, sealed, and delivered to other franchises. And that gaping wound left by Mitch Marner's departure from the top line? Still bleeding, still painful, and so far completely unsolved. This isn't just about missing out on marquee signings. This is about watching a championship-caliber roster slowly disintegrate while the front office scrambles to find solutions in an increasingly barren marketplace. The frustration is palpable. The urgency is mounting, and traditional free agency routes have essentially slammed shut in Toronto's face. But what if the answer to filling that offensive void isn't some grizzled veteran with championship rings? What if instead of throwing massive contracts at established names, the Leafs decided to roll the dice on young, inconsistent talent with untapped potential? That's exactly where Lucas Reichel enters the conversation, and that's where this story gets absolutely fascinating. The trade that could reshape two franchises according to a detailed proposal published by Heavy.com. The Toronto Maple Leafs are reportedly exploring a trade with the Chicago Blackhawks that looks deceptively simple on the surface, but could fundamentally alter the trajectory of both organizations. The deal would send Lucas Reichel to Toronto in exchange for Nick Robertson, David Kampf, and 2 fifth-round picks from 2027 and 2028. At first glance, this might seem like hockey's equivalent of rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. 2 struggling young forwards essentially swapping jerseys while draft picks and salary dumps complete the package. But dig deeper into the psychology and potential of this trade, and you'll discover a move that could shake the very foundation of both franchises' future planning. Lucas Reichel represents everything tantalizing and frustrating about modern NHL development. The 22-year-old German winger was selected 17th overall in the 2020 draft, a first-round pedigree that carries weight and expectations. He possesses a kind of skill set that makes scouts salivate: exceptional agility, creative vision, and the ability to make plays that lesser players can't even see developing. Yet despite all that raw talent, Reichel has struggled to find his footing in Chicago's system. In 70 games last season, he managed just 22 points with 8 goals and 14 assists, spending far too much time relegated to fourth-line duty. His $2.4 million contract is entering its final year, and he's expected to represent Germany in international competition, a player still very much under team control, but increasingly viewed as a trade chip rather than a cornerstone. The mirror trade of unfulfilled dreams here is where this trade becomes absolutely captivating from a psychological perspective. Nick Robertson's story reads like a carbon copy of Reichel's struggles, just in a different uniform. Drafted in the second round in 2019, Robertson burst onto the scene with flashes of brilliance, including that electrifying goal in his first playoff appearance that had Leafs fans dreaming of homegrown superstardom. But consistency proved elusive, and Robertson never secured a permanent spot in Toronto's top 6 forward group. In 69 games, he recorded 15 goals and 7 assists, numbers that mirror Reichel production almost perfectly. This essentially becomes a mirror trade of unfulfilled potential. 2 organizations gambling that a change of scenery might unlock what their current systems couldn't develop. The beauty of this swap lies in its honesty. Both teams are acknowledging that talented players don't always bloom where they're first planted. Sometimes the fit is wrong, sometimes the opportunity isn't there, and sometimes a fresh start is exactly what separates potential from production. The salary cap chess move David Kampf's inclusion in this deal represents pure salary cap mathematics wrapped in hockey logic. The 29-year-old Czech center carries a $2.4 million cap hit for 2 more seasons, and his 13 points in 59 games simply don't justify that financial commitment for a team desperately needing offensive production. But here's the brilliant part of including Kampf. Chicago, deep in rebuild mode, can absorb that contract without breaking a sweat, especially when sweetened with 2 fifth-round picks. Kampf also brings familiarity. having spent 4 seasons in Chicago before joining Toronto. His veteran presence could help stabilize their bottom six during this transitional period while the Blackhawks develop their young core. For Toronto, moving Kampf's salary creates approximately $3 million in cap flexibility, money that could prove crucial for additional moves or simply provide breathing room for future roster construction. The untapped potential of Lucas Reichel lets pause and seriously examine what Lucas Reichel could bring to Toronto's offensive system. While he may not have set Chicago ablaze, there are compelling signs that his talent has been systematically underutilized. His international play with Germany shows flashes of the player scouts envisioned when Chicago spent that first-round pick. More importantly, Reichel has never had the luxury of playing alongside elite offensive talents like Austin Matthews, William Nylander, or John Tavares. Imagine the German winger receiving crisp passes from those proven playmakers. Picture him operating with the kind of space and confidence that comes from playing on a line with legitimate superstars. Hockey analyst insight suggests that in Toronto's structured offensive system, Reichel would have access to better tools and face less immediate pressure to be the primary offensive catalyst. At just 22 years old, he still has considerable room for development, and the Leafs' offensive structure has historically favored creative players who understand spacing and timing. Reichel might discover in Toronto exactly what he lacked in Chicago: continuity, a defined role within a proven system, and most crucially, meaningful ice time alongside established stars who can elevate his game to their own excellence. Robertson's fresh start opportunity, Nick Robertson, meanwhile, might represent the most symbolic player in the Leafs' recent development frustrations. A passionate Toronto fan who grew up dreaming of wearing the blue and white, Robertson brought intensity and an electric playing style that fans immediately invested in his success. But injuries, inconsistent opportunities, and a perpetual struggle to crack a veteran-heavy top six kept Robertson from reaching his ceiling. A change of scenery to Chicago could provide exactly what his career needs: minutes, patience, and significantly less spotlight pressure. In Chicago's rebuilding environment, Robertson could line up alongside young stars like Connor Bedard or other developing prospects in an energetic, low-pressure unit focused on growth rather than immediate results. The Blackhawks could benefit enormously from a motivated, healthy Robertson who finally gets the opportunity to prove his top six capabilities. The strategic vision behind the madness from Toronto's perspective, this trade represents an opportunity to reshape their attack with younger, cheaper talent that still has significant room for growth. Reichel doesn't arrive as an established star, but he possesses the tools and age profile to potentially become one under the right circumstances. More immediately, he at least partially addresses the offensive void left by Marner's departure, not as a direct replacement, but as a piece that could grow into that role with proper development and opportunity. Brad Trailerving has made filling that top six vacancy his primary priority, and this move combines boldness with financial prudence. It's a more measured, less flashy approach than fans might expect, but it could pay substantial dividends in the medium term while preserving salary cap flexibility for additional moves. Chicago's rebuild logic from the Blackhawks' perspective. The logic is crystal clear. Reichel simply didn't fit their current system, and Chicago needs to accelerate their rebuild around generational talent like Connor Bedard. Robertson could thrive given proper time and opportunity. Kampf provides veteran stability during transition, and even fifth-round picks help replenish their prospect pipeline. This isn't a franchise-altering blockbuster, but it's exactly the kind of move that resolves organizational deadlocks while opening new developmental pathways. Chicago appears ready to reset their approach and redistribute their assets more effectively. The long-term gamble ultimately, this trade is less about immediate impact and more about future possibilities. It's about accepting that talent doesn't always flourish in its original environment, and that sometimes the best moves require patience and vision rather than headline-grabbing star power. For the Leafs, it represents a genuine opportunity to break their cycle of expensive veteran acquisitions that haven't translated to playoff success. A franchise repeatedly falling short in crucial moments needs to start taking calculated risks that challenge conventional wisdom. This trade might not dominate tomorrow's sports headlines, but 2 or 3 years from now, it could be the kind of move that fans remember with either profound satisfaction or deep regret. Conclusion: rolling the dice on tomorrow's stars, a proposed Reichel-Robertson swap embodies everything compelling about modern NHL team building. the courage to bet on potential overproduction, the wisdom to recognize when change benefits everyone involved, and a strategic vision to build for sustained success rather than quick fixes. Whether this trade materializes remains to be seen, but it represents exactly the kind of creative thinking that could separate successful rebuilds from continued mediocrity. So what's your take, hockey fans? Would you pull the trigger on trading Robertson and Kampf for Reichel? Do you believe the German winger can fill the offensive void left by Marner, or should the Leafs aim higher? And from Chicago's perspective, is it finally time to move on from Reichel, or should they give him one more chance? Drop your thoughts in the comments and smash that like button if you want more insider trade analysis and NHL rumors.